Does Lane Kiffin have to worry about a major piece hitting the transfer portal in the next 2 weeks?
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, a former staff member at Ole Miss and a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports. Today on the show, we talk about some of the transfer rumors and chatter about what's going in and what's going to be a busy transfer portal window and how Ole Miss is positioned with other schools trying to flip the players that Ole Miss already has. CBS released its top 100 college football players, and Ole Miss is really represented well for 2024. And Phil Steele really stepped in it yesterday. Well, not really if you think about it. And Chris Beard, Malik Dia, commitment, he got that as well. This is the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss your first and listen every day, and a special hello to the everydayers that make the show what it is. Still time to join the Grove Collective and help Ole Miss sports moving forward. Go to thegrovecollective.com and join today. If they have meet and greets and things like that, I will let you know. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Really interesting stuff. And I asked the question, does Ole Miss have to worry about losing a major piece that they were counting on for a playoff and a national championship run? And the reason I bring that up, now I'm going to go on record of saying that I don't believe that at the end of the day, Ole Miss has to worry about anything. But when it comes to this transfer portal and what's going on, there's no zeros and hundreds on this list. It's all some sort of a spectrum between 30 and 70% at all times. So nobody can say with 100% certainty that you're going to get to keep every single player every single time. That's just not the way it works. And you also can't say with a degree of certainty that you're going to lose a player every single time. And the reason I bring that up is we are fully into anxiety season. And by anxiety season, I mean everybody worried about what could happen with whoever their biggest players are. Everybody is constantly worried about losing their best players. And honestly, they should be, because like I said earlier, it's a non-0% chance that you keep your that somebody on their roster goes. There's no 100% in college football anymore. And one of the reasons we bring this up is Princely Umanmielen. His name is popped up in the Ole Miss fan circles. All of a sudden, really worried about him. I guess he changed some Instagram post stuff or something like that. First of all, fan base. Okay, can I just talk here? Come here. Don't go off of social media when dealing with reactions and things going on with these players. It never works out right. It's almost never right. If you're going off and reading too much into social posts, you will get burned on that. Jaxson Dart, if you remember correctly, before he announced he was coming back, he removed all of his stuff off of Instagram, and then he put it back up again. So it's just a thing with college students. But I digress, because the point is, I don't think that Princely Umanmielen is going anywhere. But there's a segment of the fan base now that started with this Instagram post, and they're trying to get bigger and worse and worse and worse. And they pile on of something horrible is going to happen. And that is the way that these things kind of move around the fan base these days. Is Princely Umanmielen guaranteed to be in Oxford this fall? No. But like I said, nobody is. There's nobody on that roster that is a 100% going to stay this fall. They don't exist. There's also no zeros on the roster as well. So understand what is going on. Princely Umanmielen is a good outside linebacker. He calls himself an outside linebacker. On Twitter, he lists himself as an Ole Miss outside linebacker, but he had 39 tackles for with 11 and a half tackles for loss a year ago, 7 sacks, 17 quarterback hurries. And Let me just for a second. Florida has some of the prettiest uniforms in all of college football. That orange and blue is iconic. Whenever they do their alternates, it looks fantastic. This all black uniform is a war crime. It is horrible. I look at this thing and it makes me sick. Florida having such pretty uniforms and pretty availabilities wearing this color jersey that is not a part of their color scheme is absolutely ridiculous. And yes, I get it. It's like, oh, we're not doing it for you. We're doing it for the kids, or we're doing it for fun. It's like, well, that's great. That's great. Still looks like crap. No matter how you do it, it still looks like crap. It's a terrible thing. I actually feel bad for Florida to have such beautiful uniforms 99% of the time, and then one game a year they wear that. And last year they lost that game, by the way. So it just is what it is. Sorry about that. But I'm not a huge fan, as you can tell by those black uniforms. So Ole Miss has a transfer portal filled with anxiety they need to get through. And I did a show yesterday talking about how we have entered into the most important 15 days of the history of Ole Miss football. And I truly believe that, because if Ole Miss makes it to May 2nd with their roster completely intact, we can start having conversations about playoff, SEC titles, national championships. The real conversations can happen. But to do that, we have to survive the next 2 weeks. And it's going to be anxiety inducing. Everybody's going to be worried about that. Everybody, have you heard the Tyler Barron rumors? There's rumors out there that Tyler Barron may be ending up back at Ole Miss. I don't know if I can say back at Ole Miss because he was never here to start with, but you know what I mean. Other schools have that about Ole Miss players as well, probably. But we'll see what's going on there. Another thing that hit our Discord server today was that apparently David Johnson said something like 3 offensive linemen for Ole Miss should enter the portal. Didn't name names. But David Johnson, as far as O lineman goes, he's pretty locked in on that position room for whatever reason. And my guess would be, and this is purely guess, is that would be the players that are down on the depth chart, which does in fact exist. I know every now and then people act like they don't want to talk about it, but there's a list being kept somewhere. There's a top 5 list for each position somewhere in that building. They just don't want other people talking about that. It's because, parents can see it. I guess maybe they keep it like the Coca-Cola formula or something like that, to where nobody knows what's going on, and they're just going to break it out in August. But that is the situation, the chatter going around the program as we're getting ready to hit this transfer portal window and have potentially the most influential 15 days in Ole Miss football history. Ole Miss comes out in 2 weeks in good shape. We can talk national title. We can talk SEC title. We can talk playoffs. All of that stuff is on the table, but Ole Miss needs to come out clean in 2 weeks. We'll see exactly what happens. Like I talked about today, there's rumors going to go on. People needs to kind of simmer down a little bit, but like my DMs today got completely blown up by the Princely Umanmielen stuff. And that is because this is the way this works. Now, most of the people on message boards, they're good people. They're genuine salt of the earth type people. There is an element that comes on those that are not fans of the team. They have burner accounts. They do all of that stuff, and they come in and they plant information to try and sow discord. That's just what they do. They want that infighting, what's going on. And then from the message board, it spreads to a friend and around the fan base. And all of a sudden, my DMs are blowing up because somebody is asking questions about what is going on. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of letting you know how this works. And we'll see. Like I said, I do not think that Princely Umanmielen is going anywhere. I don't think Ole Miss fans need to even worry about that. There's nothing concrete that is happening that is telling me that we need to have our antennas up about Princely Umanmielen. But the fan base freaked out. So my whole point in this segment is get ready for anxiety season. This is going to be a high anxiety 2 weeks. And if you can't handle it, you probably should cut it off for a couple of weeks and come back and see what happened, because there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs and things like that. Also, Chris Beard got a commitment today from Belmont forward Malik Dia that joins the player from, Michael Brown Jones, I think is his name, or something like that, from North Carolina Greensboro. The basketball team is rolling. Another big player that was brought in by Chris Beard. We'll address that with Tim Thomas a little bit later on in the week. Should be really interesting there. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen of the day. CBS has released its top 100 players in college football, and Ole Miss is very, very well represented. You know, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime, and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure if you or your team can pull out the win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heist, and take as much of my friends' money as I can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress with your buddies. There's so much to do. You can play countless dynamic Monopoly boards. You can make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. You can charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go. It's now free on the App Store or Google Play. It's Locked On NFL mock draft season, and it's going to be live on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today channel on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 Eastern to hear the local Locked On experts that are picking every NFL franchise, with live reactions from the local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL mock draft on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV app. So CBS released their top 100 college football players, and I think it was interesting, and Ole Miss is very well represented on that list. Now, it's a situation where Ole Miss, I think they had 5 players within the top 57, we'll just say top 60. And 3 of them are offensive players. 2 of them are defensive players. That denotes balance. And Ole Miss, not that long ago, would not have been on this list at all. But if you look at what happened, this is the #1 player that CBS has ranked from Ole Miss is Tre Harris. He came in at number 23. And they say Harris was one of the best receivers in the country in his first year, racking up 54 catches, 985, and 8 touchdowns. Harris is a bigger body at receiver that is an excellent route runner and has the ability to make the dynamic plays both on the outside and in the slot. Harris plays like a veteran, has the speed to separate, and an Ole Miss offense that looks like it'd be dynamic and a title contender for 2024. Tre Harris, really good player. It's interesting that CBS thinks that Tre Harris is the best football player on Ole Miss's team for this year. That one kind of got my attention. Then it goes on. Number 27 is Walter Nolen. Ole Miss got one of the most coveted defensive line prospects available at a position of need, beefing up the interior of the defense. A former top recruit, Nolen is a special player that when he puts it all together has shown flashes of dominance, especially against the run. Expect him to be one of the first defensive linemen off the board in the 2025 NFL draft if he stays healthy. Another defensive player, we talked in the first segment about Princely Umanmielen. Now he's number 46 in the top 100, said part of Ole Miss's #1 portal haul, Umanmielen, is one of the more interesting players to keep an eye on this offseason. His position coach, Randall Joyner, is one of the best developers in the game. Umanmielen is already a talented pass rusher who had 7 sacks, generated 50 pressures last season at Florida. Princely has an elite get off and bend and could be a difference maker in Ole Miss's loaded defense. His biggest areas of improvement are more consistency in his run defense and a better motor. Expect him to have a huge season if he puts it all together. He could be a first rounder in 2025. Number 55 is Jaxson Dart. He's very underrated in this case, but said Dart's numbers don't tell the entire story, even though they are still plenty good, as he is the lifeblood of the Ole Miss offense. Dart threw for over 3,300 yards and 23 touchdowns while adding another 389 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. Dart shows excellent intangibles, leaderships, and command of Lane Kiffin's offense. And finally, 57, Caden Prieskorn, a transfer from Memphis. Prieskorn came on in the second half of the season and became a favorite target of Jaxson Dart. Prieskorn has soft hands and is a great red zone threat, a chain mover in short and in the intermediate parts of the field. He'll be in the conversation for tight end 1 come the 2025 NFL draft. Interesting stuff. This was the top 60 players, 5 Ole Miss players popped on that list. And another one, Quinshon Judkins, came in at like number 12, which, by the way, yeah, let me just bring this up real quick. If Quinshon Judkins would have stayed at Ole Miss, let's say nothing would have happened and he would have just came into this Ole Miss backfield this season as opposed to being at Ohio State, he would have been in the 30s or 40s. Let's be real about it. The Scarlet Ohio State thing and the fact that the CBS is now a Big Ten conference, because we all know how conference bias plays into this, is the reason Quinshon Judkins is the number 12 player in college football. And you also look up there, like the number 1 player is Travis Hunter from Colorado, and like number 4 is Shedeur Sanders. It's like, we're going to do this again. I think it was Michael Borky that had that tweet out there. It's like, we're going to do this again. We're going to do the Colorado thing again. Okay. And it's interesting. If you look at the top portion of their rankings, it's all blue bloods, everyone. It doesn't matter about what the player is. I think Jalen Milroe is on the list at number 7 as the number 7 player in college football. Now, he's athletic, he's talented, but he's not the number 7 player in college football. He's not the number 7 player in the Southeastern Conference, but he is on that CBS list. So I'm a little bit upset, I guess you could say, about that. But overall, I think Ole Miss is in a good spot. It shows the amount of elite talent that Ole Miss has. Like I said, the next 15 days are important for Ole Miss football. But if Ole Miss can hold on to it with this top-end talent, they have a chance for first-round picks, multiple first-round picks, to happen in the 2025 draft. I think this situation that Jaxson Dart has a chance to play his way into the first round, similar to what Jalen Daniels did at LSU. And Mike Detillier, we had him on the show talking about Jaxson Dart, and he was real quick to mention that Jaxson Dart could have a jump like Jaden Daniels did that caused him to move into that early portion of the first round. Walter Nolen obviously has a chance to be there, and Princely Umanmielen is just a really, really great pass rusher. And then Caden Prieskorn is just somebody that's going to get drafted and is going to be a guy because he has the body type and all the intangibles to be a top-level elite type tight end. And then, you have Tre Harris. And Tre Harris is 23rd or so in the country to begin with. Tre Harris belongs in the top 10. I think Tre Harris is the best wide receiver in the country. If you've watched my show over the last year, that is something that I've been pretty clear about that for a while. Just a really good player. But these elite athletes, 3 on offense and 2 on defense, are going to anchor their units with other really good players as well. You have Princely Umanmielen and Walter Nolen playing next to J.J. Pegues, who has a chance to have an all-conference level season this season. And Jared Ivey, who was the Peach Bowl MVP, playing in front of Poop Hall, and whoever plays next to Poop Hall at linebacker, because Pete Golding has mentioned wanting to find another linebacker in the portal. It shows how it makes the defense even a little bit better. It's like a cascading thing where it gets exponentially better as you go backwards. So we'll see exactly how it looks. And like I said, Jaxson Dart has a chance to be special this year with Tre Harris, with Jordan Watkins, by the way, Mr. Reliable, Juice Wells, once he gets healthy. Hopefully this fall we'll be able to see exactly what this team can do and all of that stuff. But we are going to have to wait to find out about that, because thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen of the day. Phil Steele kind of stepped in it yesterday. Well, or did he? When hiring for your small business, we want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn just isn't a job board. It helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open for that perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong spot. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats that you might not have time or resources to hire. No different than hiring a football coach. If you hire the right one, he'll have you on the doorstep of the college football playoff. If you hire the wrong one, you'll be hiring another one in 3 years. That's the same thing with a regular team member on your team, except you'll be making that hire in 3 weeks. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is a show that takes the local experts of Locked On plus our national shows that cover every league and gives them to you 24/7 on a central streaming channel. Find out Locked On Sports Today, available in the free Fire TV channels app. Be part of history. So yesterday morning, Phil Steele kind of stepped in it a little bit. Well, he didn't necessarily step in it, but let's just talk about what he went on. Phil Steele put out this tweet yesterday morning. He said, I just watched the Ole Miss spring game, in quotes, got very little out of it. Dunk contest, tug of war, hot dog eating contest, obstacle course, no pads during 7-on-7 flag football game, 50-yard field, not worth watching. Don't waste your time. That is what Phil Steele said, and that, as you would imagine, drew the ire of all the Ole Miss fans who want everybody and need affirmation of exactly what they did was the right thing. You can see the pressure campaign that's been going on one side and talking on about that. But I think people were so quick to want to defend this, they didn't realize what this was actually saying. Phil Steele was not going after the format. This format was designed for football people to get as little out of this game as humanly possible. What you see here in Phil Steele is a football person that got as little out of this as humanly possible. So it's not a situation where Phil Steele was going after to put down the Grow Bowl games. Just the opposite. It's kind of confirming what you wanted to have happen, happened. It made it to where football people got nothing out of that game. You saw it. You had questions about it. How much would football people be able to get out of the game? Phil still got nothing out of the game. Now, we'll see how it goes. I have a message out to Phil Steele right now to try and get Phil on the show to talk about basically Ole Miss football. I just generally want to talk some Ole Miss stuff, but maybe get his question on the Grow Bowl games and things like that. So we'll see exactly how that goes and if they get back to me and all of that stuff. If If he comes on the show, you know, you know my interviews. You see how it goes. I'm going to ask questions that people want to know about, not questions that I want to know about. So we'll see exactly how that goes. But Phil Steele, he didn't put down the format of the Grove Bowl. People probably shouldn't be trying to body bag Phil Steele over this. And that is because it did exactly what it was designed to do. What Lane Kiffin envisioned when he came up with this format, it worked. This is proof of concept that it worked. This was not useful to people that are football fans that wanted football. If you wanted the sideshow, if you wanted the circus, this was for you. If you wanted football, you needed to go cut on the Georgia spring game, the LSU spring game, or something like that to scratch that itch. I don't think everybody needs to pile on Phil Steele because he needs as much information as humanly possible to build his magazine. That's it. So whenever he watches a spring game, whenever he watches anything, it is 100% about football. He doesn't care about the other stuff. He doesn't care about the ancillary things, the things that make it fun. He doesn't care about that. All he wants to see is football. And whenever you don't do that, it is a waste of his time, just like it was intended to be. This was supposed to be a waste of Phil Steele's time. This was supposed to upset him and make him tweet that this was a waste of time. This did what it was supposed to do. That's my point. And we'll see exactly how that goes in the fall whenever the Phil Steele magazine comes out. Is Ole Miss 9th? Is Ole Miss 10th? Does it affect the rankings? I don't know. But we'll see exactly how it goes. I'm pretty fired up. Ole Miss is getting ready to go on a big run. Like I said, I'm going to try and get Phil Steele on the show to talk a little bit about Ole Miss because he pretty much does do the number one magazine in all of college football of previewing. So we'll see exactly what he has to say, especially about these players that transferred in, like Princely Umanmielen and Walter Nolen, even somebody like Juice Wells, something like that. We will get his opinion on that as well. Anyway, transfer portal is up and roaring. I hope everybody is ready for what is going to be a really exciting week. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen. We have one of the most perspective-filled shows surrounding Ole Miss sports out there, and it's one of the many reasons we are the number one Ole Miss podcast, and thank you for that. But for your second listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today is a national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows that cover each and every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available in the free Fire TV Channels app. For those of you on YouTube, we'll send you there right now. Hotty toddy, everyone.